I'd now like to request Karan to please say a few words and, of course, read an excerpt from the book. And after that, Sohail, I'd like to request you to moderate the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Suchitra. Thank you very much. Thank you for being as gracious as you always are. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to begin by saying what a tremendous honor it is for me to be on this platform with Khan Sahab. Truly a living legend and someone who not only inspires us, but is the pride of our country in every which way. Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to do the honors this evening. Good evening, Sohail. It's always a pleasure to be with you on a platform.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you. More about that later.
Platform or likewise?
Both.
Lovely.
Likewise, you are a platform.
Look forward.
It is truly my honor to read an excerpt from the book, which I'm going to do just now. That's why I choose not to sit, because everyone in this book is such a legend that to give them the required respect is truly the need of the moment, the hour, and of course, in general. The chapter I will read is on Begum Akhtar. It was a personal experience that Khan Sahab has shared with us in the book, and I'd like to read an excerpt from there. Begum Sahiba had great regard and admiration for my father. She once told me that she tried to persuade Abba Sahab to record his music. But he was against recordings because he had observed classical music records being played during weddings and private parties while the guests milled about talking, eating, and drinking. Whatever recordings of his are available are from his live radio broadcasts late in his life. None exist of him playing at his prime. Begum Sahiba tried to convince him on many, many occasions, but he stood his ground. The first time I saw Begum Sahiba perform was in Calcutta. She always smiled while she sang. Before I could say adab to her, she promptly said, Khan Sahab, adab. I thought she was making fun of me. Whenever I was in the audience, she would make it a point to seek my permission before she sang in the concert, saying, Khan Sahab, ijazat hai? Khan Sahab, may I begin? I used to feel quite embarrassed by this until I realized that through me, she was honoring and paying her respects to my forefathers. She maintained this warmth and love from the stage on every occasion. Sometime in 1970 or 71, a few years before she passed away, AIR in Kashmir invited both of us to perform at Hari Bhavan. We stayed at the beautiful Oberoi Hotel, now Hotel Lalit. Governor Bhagwan Sahai was the chief guest. It was a packed hall. Being much younger than her, I requested Begum Sahiba to allow me to begin the evening. On hearing this, she touched both her ears and said, Ye gustakhi, main nahi kar sakti hu. I cannot do this. I was really worried about performing after her, but she was adamant. Our exchange went on for some time. When the AIR officials came to invite us, I tried to rush to the stage. But Begum Sahiba caught my hand and ran onto the stage herself, and I was left behind in the wings, watching her. When the curtain was opened, she sat down and began her concert with a smile. Shakur Khan and Ramzan Khan were on the sarangi and tabla respectively. Backstage, I was listening to her ethereal songs and praying to God Almighty to bless my concert too. She sang 4 ghazals, and every song was so appealing that it left the audience enthralled. During the intermission, before my performance, Governor Sahai came backstage to meet the artists. When it was my turn to perform, to my utter surprise, I saw Begum Sahiba sitting in the audience. To give respect and to honor her gracious and magnanimous gesture, I kept my sarod aside and said that after her singing, I had forgotten all ragas and raginis. I requested her to return to her hotel and rest. She said, लीजिए, क्या हम आपको सुन नहीं सकते? Bismillah करिए आप. Can I not listen to you? Please begin. This was one of my most cherished memories of Begum Akhtar. This truly seems like a special book, a book for all music lovers, a book for everyone searching for soul, and a book that doesn't only travel and transcend, but also connects so deeply. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Karan, you read so well. You should really consider doing a television show.
And you should consider being invited.
Who does that show? That Johar lad, right?
Yeah, someone there. The nepotistic man.
Okay, we'll come to that later. But I'm so delighted to be here. I've had the privilege and the fortune of knowing Ustad Sahab and the family for now almost 20 years. That's a long time. That's about the time that the Congress will take to return to power. And I'm delighted to welcome Milind Deora here. But that for later. But I think what Karan read out today, the passage on Begum Akhtar, reflects a generation that is slowly slipping from our times. A generation where respect was not only stated, it was felt. Where there was a tehzeeb, there was a fitra, but most importantly, there was the appreciation of sharing the other person's greatness. And I think, Ustadji, to your credit, for me personally, this isn't a book. It's a lesson in life. It's very rare that people appreciate others who are greater than themselves. David Ogilvy famously said, if you want to become a company of giants, hire people better than yourself. If you want to become a company of dwarfs, hire people who are inferior. The fact that a master has written on masters, to my mind, has opened vistas for young people and old into the lives that no longer walk the planet. So for that, thank you. And let me begin by asking you the general ubiquitous question. Why these 12 and why not the others?
Before I answer the question, I would like to thank Mr. Karan Johar and Mr. Suhail Seth to be part of this celebration and launching of the book. I would like to address them because in our music world, anybody who achieves something, we call them Ustad and Pandit. I think Pandit Karan Johar and Pandit Suhail Seth. Because I admire Mr. Karan Johar, I have seen films, I have seen his Coffee with Karan, and he's very gifted and he's a pure artist. And same with Mr. Suhail Seth, God has given him that creativity and he has so much energy. On any subject he can talk, and I really admire both of them. Generally in our field, a disciple only writes on his guru and on his father. And because if he writes on somebody else, maybe his father and guru will not appreciate that. So that has been the tradition of Indian classical music. And that is why there's hardly any books available to read on great masters. But my guru, my father, Ustad Hafiz Ali Khan Sahab, he often said that you must look for the quality in other musicians also. And I'm very fortunate that I could see the magic of these great masters. I still remember going to Jalandhar. There used to be a big festival of classical music, Harbala Festival. Still continues, but not the same way. This was 1964. I was invited, and all these giants, they were there, all these great masters. And so I can't forget them. They were the stars, and because of them, this classical music became famous and popular, not only in India, all over the world. People respect our art and culture and music. It was a big list of musicians, but these 12 musicians, because of my personal equation, they were the trendsetters. Today, somebody is following Pandit Ravi Shankar sitar, or somebody is following Ustad Vilayat Khan sitar. So they were the trendsetters. They established style of sitar playing. And it was a great honor and pleasure that I could think back and could collect my thoughts, because I never practice for language. My world is sound, because through sound I cannot manipulate anything. It's very transparent. But language is difficult for me to understand. But I'm so glad to hear such language of Mr. Suhail Seth and Karan Johar. I really admire both of them.
Thank you. Karan, it's a very interesting insight that Ustad ji just gave. And in many ways, the film industry, I hate to use the word Bollywood, the film industry in Bombay, the Hindi film industry, also has a lot of respect and tehzeeb for the seniors. Do you think times are changing? Do you think the respect quotient in many ways is diminishing because there's more proximity, there's more closeness? Where do you see the film industry from where you look at it?
Well, I think that, I have come from a generation that explained and I would say made me respect people in a certain manner. So I think it's the way you show respect has definitely evolved and changed, because the younger generation just show it very differently through their words and through their, actions. Whereas when I was a child, I remember my father taking me to a film party, and he said, if I say this is my son, you shake his hand. If I say ye mera beta hai, you touch their feet. So I was just waiting for that cue right through. I was like almost on autopilot.
And what if there was a South Indian?
I don't know. I didn't get so technical then, but I do remember that was the way that you honored when I met Lata ji or I met Mr. Bachchan. It was just the way we showed our respect. The generation today does respect the seniors in the fraternity for sure. It's just a different way of showing it. I'm not sure. I get a bit shocked at times when I feel like the generation that is young and new, and they meet some legends very casually. They shake their hands. They have respect in their heart. It's just that we, I think, have been trained and tuned to kind of meet them in a certain way, which has definitely changed. But I think that, with time, I'm quite amazed with the way the generation operates. Because I think that, it takes a certain ease to not be overtly reverential and respectful. And that's not in my DNA, but it's in theirs. And I think with time, and with the excessive use of social media and I think everyone's about themselves and not about others. And we come from a generation that learns to applaud everybody else's work and not just fester within ourselves. And I think that has definitely changed.
So that's a very interesting takeoff point, Ustadji. He says that a world existed where you applauded the other person. You applauded someone else's craft. You, in many ways, through this book, have done exactly that. You've not only applauded their craft, you've applauded their life, you've applauded their beliefs, their quirks, whatever it may be. Do you believe that in today's world of classical music, in our country, things are changing? And are they changing for the better or for the worse? Or they're just changing because people are evolving? As Karan says, media's never been more intrusive. Media's never been more personal. Today I can get to know your political idiom, your religious belief, your food habits because of what you tweet or what you put on Instagram. So do you believe you're seeing that change even in the world of classical music?
I think from the time television came in our life in India, the traditional arts, they suffered. But gradually, I think every genre, there is a big audience, even for classical music, and there are fusion concerts, so the change is very healthy, I think. But it all depends on the kind of musicians you have in our country or in the world. It all depends. If the music is appealing, people will listen to you, whether you are a European musician or whether you are an Indian musician. But things are changing. There was a time in Calcutta, there used to be 25 music festivals. In every year. A lot of musicians used to live in Calcutta for 2-3 months to attend all the festivals. So that has changed. It's now only Dover Lane left in Calcutta, Maharashtra, South. So, but fortunately, even today, There are sold out shows for classical music, for ghazal, for bhajan, for any kind of music. So change is a very natural factor, and I think we are all ready to face any kind of change.
You know, Karan, I was born and raised in Calcutta, and I remember spending hours, evening after evening, literally at the feet of Satyajit Ray, who would play the piano every evening at 4:30 p.m., Lee Road. That time I was rehearsing for a play called Amadeus. There was a genuine desire to learn. The Adda was at the heart of our lives because it was all about conversation. It was a city which never judged you. It had no prejudices. Sometimes do you believe that with the changing norms, with more urbanization, with more migration, do you think that has kind of altered? Where people can actually have a long conversation discussing Louis Malle or discussing Brando, discussing Kurosawa. Do you think that has literally slipped out of our lives?
I think technology is largely to blame, and it has. You know, you find those conversations very rare that are actually about art and about like artists, and you know, where you can actually stay away from your phone, which has become like a part of your body now. I think it's almost attached like an organ, and you know, there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that we're always so distracted for various reasons. You know, I see people not talking to each other at all anymore. Like you just have visuals of people just sitting across dining tables and even in their homes and just engaged on their mobile telephone. And I think that it's just taken away, just like I think technology has killed romance in general. I think it's also killed conversation. And I think I'm a rare breed, I'm probably a dinosaur, that still wants to talk to people about other things than, you know, their day-to-day obstacles or issues or personal lives or infidelities or whatever. There are so many other things in the world that you'd like to engage with them on, which I think has drastically reduced, and I'm sure you know that. And I think some of us who came from a generation where we did see this, enjoy it. I've been around filmmakers. I've had the pleasure and privilege to actually see Raj Kapoor on set, watch Yash Chopra direct a film, be in a music session with Lakshmikant Pyarelal, and, you know, actually have the pleasure of a conversation, even though I was very tiny, with R.D. Burman. And I remember that generation spoke, engaged, shared their work, their experience, their craft. It doesn't happen anymore, not in my fraternity at all. It's all very individual. It's almost artistically selfish. And I think that has never served the purpose of art in a large way. So unfortunately, Sohail, to answer your question, no, I think that whether it's migration or it's technology or it's just a huge sense of self-worth that I think has translated into the lack of, I would say, conversation or sharing, which is what I think you're talking about.
So I'll pick up, and Ustadji, I'll get Karan also to respond to this. At the heart of your belief system, and I know this, is your family. I know the same about Karan. I'm exactly the same. I'm very proud to say that I live with my mother. I see your children, I see your grandchildren, I see your daughter-in-law interwoven into a family that has deep beliefs and has inherent respect. That respect knows no age, it knows no craft, it knows no purpose. Do you believe we're missing some of that? And is that kind of creating an influence, either negative or positive, over the way music is being created? You know, the Gharana was at the heart of legacy building, but is also at the heart of continuity. Has that kind of changed today?
I would like to share one incident of Ustad Amir Khan Sahab. He was called musician's musician. He sang for himself. He never tried to find out what the audience needs, what they want. Once there was a concert at LG of Delhi. The first LG, Mr. A.N. Jha. So A.N. Jha has invited all the governors of India, and it was a very official dinner there. So Mr. Jha spoke to me, he called me personally. He says, you have to perform, and Ustad Amir Khan Sahab will sing also. So he sent his car, a huge big car, Impala, and we all sat in that car, and we were just going towards LG's house. And Khan Sahab, रास्ते में मुझे कह रहे भाई ये गवर्नर आ रहे हैं, इनको म्यूजिक की समझ तो है नहीं, तुम भी कम बजाना, मैं भी कम गाऊंगा। तो मैंने कहा हुजूर मैं तो आपको सुनने जा रहा हूँ, मैं आपके सामने क्या बजाऊंगा। Anyway, finally we reached there and I finished my concert within half an hour. And there were about 5-6 of us to say, "Wah wah, bahut achhe, kya baat hai." And it was a spotlight on all of us, and Khan Sahib started singing one rag. Great performance, and we were saying, "Wah wah 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 wah." And it was his style that while singing one rag, he'll suddenly start the second rag. He started second rag. He lost track of time. And the governor is in sign language asking me when he's going to finish. So I say, I don't know, but please take your guest for dinner. I can't stop him. So he kept on singing, and now only Mr. Jha alone